Shri Guru Shri Radha Parakamana Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganitam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Sarajutam Varijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditamscha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So, for many years I've been coming here to give Bhagavad Gita lectures. That's been the program here for years, but Mother Parvati explained to me they finished the Bhagavad Gita. So they've switched now to Prabhupada memories, which sounds pretty sweet to me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, what are my Prabhupada memories? I have many wonderful memories of Prabhupada. What I remember first of all is how stupid I was back in 1969 that I had the opportunity to meet Prabhupada, to go hear his lecture in Berkeley, California. But I was such a puffed up Mayavadi thinking I was Krishna. I didn't want the Swami to pop my little bubble, you see. I wouldn't go. I was living just a few blocks away from where Prabhupada gave his lecture. So I always lament about that. I could have gone to hear Prabhupada in 1969, the spring of '69 in Berkeley. I didn't go. The following year, again, I was visiting Berkeley, California, and they had a little... At that time, ISKCON was operating in a house. One lady gave her house to the brahmacharis. She lived upstairs, and she gave them the downstairs. Whenever they served prashadam in the backyard, it was a really nice little preaching center. So she invited me. She says, you know, we're going down to Los Angeles. Prabhupada's going to be going on a big festival there. We have a van. We're going. You come with us. Would I go? No. One brahmachari in the kitchen, he said, we have to follow the higher authorities. I went, ooh. In those days, in the hippie movement, we had a philosophy, don't trust anybody over 30. So the idea of following, you know, accepting some elderly Swami as my authority was like, whoa. Again, this idiot didn't go. So then I was back in Austin, Texas, and trying to make it as a musician, and thinking I was a pretty hot musician. But then one day when somebody from an audience came up, he said, I hate your music. And I was shocked. Somebody hates my music? Ah. So I started getting more introspective, you know. Started getting more introspective. It was kind of interesting. I was with my mother. I went home for Christmas to Houston to visit my family, and I went with my mom down to the grocery store. And some guy named Frank McIntyre, who was actually a blooped ISKCON devotee, I found out later on. He invited me to come for a morning Bible study. All the Mormons got together to study the Bible every morning. He said, I'll come pick you up at your house and take you to the Bible study. I said, okay. Yeah, I went there, and I got up every morning in the crack of dawn, early morning for us. And I got in the habit of getting up early and studying the Bible. So I went back up to Austin and I kept that thing going, studying the Bible every morning. But now I had this desire, I have to become a self-realized soul. This material world, this isn't going to hack it, you know. I had to become self-realized. And so I studied the Bible every morning. So what made Jesus a self-realized soul? What was his secret? What made him the self-realized soul that he was? And one day, I found it. Jesus says, Father, not my will, but thy will be done. That's actually the same thing as Sarvadhaman Paritaja, just from the devotee's perspective, you see. And I went, wow, that's great. And now I know how to become self-realized. You just got to do what God wants. Forget what you want. Do what God wants. And you become self-realized. Well, I had one problem. I didn't know what God wanted me to do. So I was doing one of my singing things with my guitar in front of a vegetarian co-op, a little stage they had out there. And being a musician, the musician's ego, I was kind of depressed. There was only one person in the audience. It was a little girl. They're singing, you know. And she was, it was amazing. She was so perceptive. She after it was over, she could understand I was depressed because she was the only one in the audience. I don't know, she's a very intuitive little girl. She came up to me and said, don't worry, God can hear you. And I went, wow, that's amazing. There's some deep significance to what she just said. So here I was wondering, when will God tell me what I'm supposed to do? What will my mission be? Just like in the Bible, Saul had his Damascus experience, and now you are designated Paul, and here's your mission. I was waiting for that, you see, when God revealed to me my mission. Well, I couldn't hear him, but this little girl tipped me off. You know, you can't hear him, but he can hear you. Oh, wow, there we go. So now I had a new mantra. Every morning I get up, I study the Bible and say, Dear God, please guide me how I can become your perfect servant. That was my mantra. My whole life was pivoting around that prayer, you see. And one day, that proverbial knock came on the door. I was staying with one of my fans, Mike, and his friend Margaret came and knocked on the door. She said, there's a Hare Krishna Swami in town. He's going to be at my apartment in 1 hour. So I was there, and 1 hour later, and who was it? His Holiness Vishnu Jana Maharaj. Charisma personified. Oh, wow, what an amazing devotee, Vishnu Jana Swami. So he said, we're having a love celebration in Pease Park today. You please come. Sure enough, I was there. So I started hanging out with this Swami. He would go every day to the campus, the University of Texas. And he would announce, you invite me to your home, and I will turn your home into a temple. So every day he would collect quarters for Bhakti Godhead magazines. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd go to the grocery store and take all those quarters and buy some boga. Go to the house, whoever invited him that night, and he'd cook an incredible feast. He's an amazing person, not only in kirtan, but also in the kitchen. I don't know if you know, but Vishnu Jana Swami was also amazing in the kitchen. They can't hear in the back, so I need to make sure I'm focused in here on that. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay, they can hear me in the back. He just nodded yes. Anybody cannot hear me? Cannot hear. Can you hear now? Okay. Oh. Okay, we'll focus in on the Shabda Brahma here. Okay, so he had quite a following. It was amazing. Vishnu Jana Swami came into Austin. There was a whole hip community was going on there, full swing, and he became like the Pied Piper for all the hippies. He was the Pied Piper, and so I went to a program one night. This was in Robin Ferris's house, and the program was going on in the living room. And Vishnu Jana, I went to the kitchen to get a drink of water. We didn't drink bottled water in those days. We drank tap water in those. And so I went to the kitchen to get a drink of water, and who would be in the kitchen with me but Vishnu Jana Swami, just the two of us. And he looked at me very mercifully and very soberly. And he said, "You have to become sober." And I went, wow. In the hippie movement, we wanted to get high, take this, smoke that, drop this. Whatever you can to stay always high, intoxicated. And now he's saying, you have to become sober. And he was coming from such a high place. His sobriety was like a much higher level than anything I'd ever conceived of before, I guess. So that became very, very amazing for me. You have to become sober. So I said, well, I'm going to give this Hare Krishna thing a try, I'm going to give it a try. I tried, I think I'll give it an experiment. I've tried everything else, try this too, right? So, in those days, the only Ratha Yatra was in San Francisco. We didn't have Ratha Yatras everywhere. But in Dallas, they were having a Lord Chaitanya festival. They made a huge murti, about 20, out of paper mache, about 20 feet high murti of Lord Chaitanya to carry through the streets with the kirtan and have a big festival in the park. So I went there with the devotees. We stayed in the little Dallas temple at that time, a little duplex. And in those days we didn't have japa beads from India. You'd have to go to Tandy Leather Company and buy some beads and string your own. So a bunch of us decided we wanted to have japa beads. We got in the car and went over to Tandy Leather Company. We strung our beads and I chanted my first 16 rounds and I was so fired up. I told the Swami and said, I think I'd like to become a devotee. Instead of saying Jai, you know what he said? He said, what I'm worried about is easy come, easy go. Wow, he was challenging me. Not like Jai, great, back to Steve. Actually, they called me Steve Prabhu because I'd done 10 BCGs. I got a title, Prabhu, for doing 10 BCGs. But he said, what I'm worried about is easy come, easy go. So, well, you couldn't easily impress this Vishnujan Swami. You couldn't just impress him. You had to really, really show your sincerity. He couldn't be easily impressed. He's not easily impressed. So anyway, at that time I had a big beard and long hair down to my shoulders, and they had a play that afternoon, the Kazi play. So they needed somebody to play the Kazi. Well, I was a tight fit for it. They had me play the Kazi, and they had a drum, a clay drum that was half broken on the back. So in the drama, I actually smashed it the rest of the way. So that was something. And then we went back down to Austin, and Mohanananda, the president of Dallas, called Vishnu Jana Swami on the phone. He said, I actually had shaved up at a barber shop, not with the devotees, but I thought it was really cool, the Hare Krishna haircut. So I went to a barber shop and had one of these temple cuts, And so anyway, the devotees are pretty angry. Vishnu Jana didn't mind them. I'd shaved up on my own without authorization. But Vishnu Jana was cool with it. And Mohanananda called him up, and Vishnu Jana said, guess what? The Kazi shaved up. So we had all kinds of wonderful experiences there with Vishnu Jana Swami. We just called him the Swami, that's all. He was the Swami. Or we called him Swami, that's how we addressed him. Swami. We just said, Swami, can I do this? Swami, can I do that? Swami, everything was just Swami this, Swami that. And I remember one morning, I walked, this is before I moved into the ashram, I walked like 2 miles in the early morning, early morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember we went there. Now, our altar, if you can imagine how simple it was a little black and white cutout picture of the Panchatattva, about maybe 3 by 4 inches, and that was the altar. That was it. But Vishnu Jana Swami was so in the mood of devotion. Of course, none of us knew how to offer an arti, no one knew how to lead a kirtan, so he would do the arti and the kirtan simultaneously. And he did it with such feeling, he would just melt your heart. And you know what? We got a letter from Prabhupada. In those days, you didn't you didn't wait for the person it was addressed to. You just, all the devotees would just get together and open the letter. Didn't matter who it was addressed to. So Vishnujan Swami was away from the temple for a few hours, and the letter came, and we all gathered together and opened it. Actually, there was something confidential in there. We shouldn't have read it. But Prabhupada said the most amazing thing in this letter. He told Vishnujan Swami, he said, when you were singing the kirtan in Los Angeles, I could feel how I was being carried to Vaikuntha. And I went, yes, I was feeling the same thing. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I was feeling the same thing. It was amazing. His kirtans would just carry you into another dimension. I had not moved in to become a devotee. I was still thinking, well, I'll keep doing my musician thing, my singer-songwriter thing. I'll just see, My Sweet Lord, this has been a #1 hit. So I was thinking, I'll just do my singer-songwriter thing. I'll write songs about Krishna. I'll follow George Harrison's Sampradaya, you see. That's what I was thinking. And so I moved into the temple not to become a brahmachari, but to learn how to write better songs about Krishna for my own thing, you see. I brought my guitar with me, you know. And so Vishnujan Swami is very cool. I said, I haven't come to become a devotee, I just come as a learning experience. He said, that's a very good attitude. He encouraged me. So devotees are working on me, you know, you got to surrender, you got to become a disciple. I was thinking, no. But, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? You get up for Mangalarti, there's this long prayer you're supposed to say, and it's pretty tough for a Texas hippie, you know? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Visdaya Buddha, you know. Wow, that's a big mouthful for a Texas hippie, you know. So, I had an idea. I took a ballpoint pen and wrote it with my left hand, you see, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. There's a little space down here at the bottom, and Vishnujan Swami saw my hand, make room for Mother Parvati. My beloved god sister Parvati Devi Dasi has now arrived, who's invited me here today to speak. So, Vishnujan Swami saw I had an empty space there on my thumb. He said, now you add this to your thumb. I must please my spiritual master and surrender unto him fully. Well, was I going to do that? Nope. I'm just going to be a Krishna conscious songwriter. But the devotees said, I'll just be a devotee of Krishna, I told them. I won't be a disciple of Prabhupada, I'm just going to be a devotee of Krishna. They said, but look, Steve Prabhu, it says here in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. You have to surrender to the Guru if you want to be a devotee of Krishna. Well, I couldn't say anything to that, but was I going to do it? No. But then an interesting thing happened. The devotees in London had gotten together with George Harrison, and they made this amazing album called the Radha Krishna Temple album. Actually, we play the first cut every day. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. And then the second cut, Samsaradava Nalalita Loka. So anyway, it was sent out by Apple Records to all the radio stations. And this radio station in Austin, I got, this is too spiritual. We don't want to play this on a radio station. What to do with this thing? But they knew there were some Hare Krishna guys who were chanting and dancing by the campus. So they walked out to the campus with this record album. The guy from the radio station comes out with the record, and he hands it to us on the street. Wow, look at this. The Beatles, George Harrison, Hare Krishna. We didn't know this was going on in London, you see. It completely blew us away. Wow. In those days, there was no cassettes, there was no MP3, it was all 33 1/3 vinyl. So we had a little turntable, you know, we went home, we put, that record got a lot of spins in our temple, I'll tell you right now. And my third service was to vacuum the temple room rug every morning. It was a rental house, we had a rug in the temple room. So one proverbial morning, I was vacuuming the temple room rug. This is how I met Prabhupada. And that record was playing, and the second cut was going. Samsaradava nalalita loka Tvanaya karyam yagana ganadvam Draptasya kalyana gunanavasyam Vande Guru Shri Sharanarvindam. So I was hearing these devotees. Wow, this is incredible. This feeling I have for Prabhupada. This is a different kind of love, not like loving your dog or loving some good-looking girl or something like that. You know, this is a whole different kind of love that I've never experienced before. And being an envious person by nature, you know, we're all envious, that's why we're here, right? Being an envious person by nature, I became transcendently envious of those Hare Krishna people. That they could taste a love that I was not tasting. Prabhupada prema, you see, love for Prabhupada. They had Prabhupada prema and I didn't. I've been, you know, envious fellow. So wow, I was just really, as we used to say, grooving. I was grooving like anything on the emotions of those devotees. And then this thought just came, that flooded my consciousness. Wouldn't it be beautiful if I gave my life to Srila Prabhupada? And the tears just came streaming around my face, and that was it. I met Prabhupada, he entered my heart, and he's been sitting there ever since. Srila Prabhupada ki jai! But I hadn't even seen him yet. I just heard about him, I heard his recorded voice, I read his books, I heard Vishnu John Swami talking about him, but I still haven't met him yet, physically, you know. There's Vapu and Vani. Of course, Vani is more important. Now I got the Vani Sangha, but I didn't get Vapu Sangha yet. Everybody's interested in the Vapu Sangha stories, so I have some of those too. But actually the Vani is more important. My connection with Prabhupada, I turned down 2 opportunities to see him physically. I actually accepted him as my spiritual master without ever having seen him, just because of the faith and the love of his disciples. So, now a big thing is happening. They're going to have a Ratha Yatra in San Francisco, headed up by our Jayananda Prabhu. Big Ratha Yatra, so we're all planning to go. And Vishnu John Swami had a jeep. Bhakta Jim, who became Devijahari Prabhu, he brought a 4-wheel jeep when he surrendered. So Prabhupada heard about that Vishnu John Swami had a 4-wheel drive jeep that can go anywhere. Prabhupada said, yes, that is sannyas. So anyway, Vishnu John Swami is going to head out now from Austin, Texas to San Francisco. And in my mind's eye, I can still see that day when the jeep headed out. I can still see it right now when he was heading west on whatever that street was. I can still see that day when he headed out on the road with Bhakta, the 2 Bhaktas. And the rest of us were going to come later. Actually, I'm not an artist, but Vishnu John Swami empowered me. He wanted to have a flag of Hanuman on the Jeep. And he showed in the Krishna book a picture of Jambavan, who's something like, looks something like a Hanuman. He said, now you draw this on this flag. I don't know how it happened, but he empowered me, and it was actually a reasonable likeness of a Hanuman. And he put it on the Jeep. He headed out with a flag of Hanuman on the Jeep. And so, but then after he left, there was complaints about the kirtan, and the landlord wanted to evict us. So our GBC in Dallas, he said, well, there's so much trouble, all you boys, you can't go to Ratha Yatra. So now, oh my God, I was going to go see Prabhupada. Now the GBC says you can't go. And I can't go see Prabhupada. Oh my. It was a real heavy thing. You're supposed to follow the GBC, right? The GBC is the authority. You're supposed to follow the GBC. Vishnu John said we should come. The GBC said we shouldn't go. Ooh, I was spinning around in my head what to do. I finally said, no, I'm just going to hitch. I used to hitchhike to California anyways. I'm just going to hitch. I told the devotees, I have to go. They said, no, Steve Prabhu, you shouldn't go. The GBC said you shouldn't go. So I didn't know what to do. But finally, you know what happened? Vishnujan Swami, the GBC called Vishnujan Swami, and he said, you know, these guys are incompetent new boys. They can't deal with the landlord anyway, so just let them come. So, all right, we got to go. We all got to go, and the temple president of Dallas drove down and picked us up, and we were on our way to California. And we're out there in San Francisco, and that was the big thing in those days. Hundreds of devotees, hundreds of brahmacharis sleeping there on the floor of the temple room. An incredible line for the shower. I mean, you know, your 30-second shower. And we're just waiting. Prabhupada is coming, Prabhupada is coming. Oh, you can't imagine the excitement. Prabhupada is coming. It's such an amazing feeling that Prabhupada is coming, Prabhupada is coming, Prabhupada is coming. So finally the day for the big festival comes. Prabhupada's going to arrive, the day of the Ratha Yatra festival. And with Jayananda, our great hero, he needed some help up at the Ratha Yatra side to get the carts ready. So I volunteered, yes, I will go help get the carts ready. So we got up to the side, and somebody said, Prabhupada's coming to the airport in a few minutes, and this is the last van going to the airport. I went, oh my God, Krishna, Prabhupada's coming, and here's a van. I can jump in the van right now. I can go greet Prabhupada at the airport, but I've already volunteered to help at the Ratha Yatra service. Oh no, what am I going to do? You know, I was torn again. But Jayananda Prabhu is very merciful, I can tell you. He needed the men. So I said, Prabhu, I've never ever seen Prabhupada before. Can I go to the airport? And he looked around, he saw how many helpers he had, and he said, yeah, you can go. So by Jayananda Prabhu's mercy, I got my first darshan of Prabhupada. Jayananda Prabhu ki jai! So we're there at the airport now, about 300 of us. You know, there was no security in those days. You could go right up to the jet bridge. And it was like, you know, the jet bridge was like a little tube, right? But that tube extended into the airport. It became a human tube of dancing devotees. And all these karmis are probably, I think, the last one off the plane. All these karmis are like, wow, they come off, they're like, goggle-eyed, what's going on here? They're in the middle of this huge kirtan as they come to off the jet bridge, you know. Of course, it was San Francisco, so San Francisco was the head of the headquarters of the hippies. So they expected, you know, far out things in San Francisco anyway. But this is really, really far out. A bunch of singing, dancing people in robes and saris. So finally, Prabhupada came. He appeared. I can still, in my mind's eye, see that moment when I had my first darshan of Prabhupada. I can still see him in my mind's eye. And it was amazing. He was so short, but yet he was the biggest person in the whole universe. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now we all, of course, our dandavats, and then they had this idea that it would be very auspicious if Prabhupada would walk in a trail of yogurt. So in the airport terminal, they put yogurt all the way across the floor, a whole trail of yogurt from the jet bridge all the way out to where you leave to the car. And we got out there, and it's time for the car to come pick up Prabhupada. And guess what? There was no car. There was no vehicle for Prabhupada. And there's photographs of this moment. Prabhupada is standing here as an aristocratic gentleman, very patiently standing. And about 300 devotees are all, he's the cynosure of all eyes. We're all standing in a circle around him, all just looking at Prabhupada. And he's just standing here like, not a word did he say, not one word. He just stood very patiently, waiting for his ride. Now we Texas devotees, but I think we were the stupidest people in the whole world because we had a vehicle. And we didn't offer it to Prabhupada. Can you imagine? He had that Jeep sitting there in the parking lot. We could have said, Prabhupada, we can take you to the Ratha Yatra site. We were so stupid, we thought, let's get to the Ratha Yatra site before Prabhupada so we can greet him there. Can you imagine how stupid we were? My God, we were so stupid. And we did that. We headed out in a vehicle and left Prabhupada standing there. I mean, talk about Guru Aparad. Oh my God. Krishna. We were so stupid. Anyway, finally somebody gave Prabhupada a ride to the Ratha Yatra.
What year was this?
This is 71.
71.
Yeah. San Francisco, 71.
I was in India then.
And then, now Prabhupada comes to the side and he gets up on Subhadra Devi's card. Now this lecture, of course, is in the MP3 collection. And I hear it many times. I heard just the other day. But the very first word I had coming from my spiritual master's mouth was Jagannath. He said, Jagannath Shami, Nayana Padagami, Bhavatame. That's how he began speaking. He said, Lord Jagannath, Lord of the universe, please come to my vision. So he gave a lecture which was very much oriented. There's about maybe 3,000, I don't know. It was, big hundreds of devotees and thousands of hippies. This was the big thing for the hippies. Even came all the way from Texas for this. This was a big thing for the whole Haight-Ashbury hippie scene. They all showed out for the big Hare Krishna festival. It was a big, huge turnout. Thousands and thousands of hippies with their beads and all their hippie regalia, and all the devotees and their devotee regalia. So, Prabhupada gave the most wonderful lecture. He said, you have all seen God, he said. You have all seen God, because Krishna says, I am the light of the sun and the moon. He says, every time you drink water, if you remember that Krishna is the taste of the water, immediately you become Krishna conscious. He said, every day you drink water, once, twice, thrice, more than that. Every time you drink water, you see. In this way, he gave the most wonderful lecture. He told us how this festival commemorates what happened, a pastime 5,000 years ago with Krishna and his brother and sister. Went to Kurukshetra on the occasion of the solar eclipse. This Ratha Yatra is actually a very amazing thing. You see, Krishna, he desires to go back to Vrindavan to be reunited with the Vrajavasis. And this mood of the Ratha Yatra is, you're bringing Krishna, you're pulling the cart to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan, to bring Radharani and all the Vrajavasis back to life, because now they're virtually dead in the separation of Krishna. To save the Vrajavasis from a fate worse than death, now we are bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. This is the inner mood of Ratha Yatra. And one can meditate on this during the festival. It's very nice in meditation. So anyway, at that time, Vishnujan Swami, a little history, he had, along with 3 other sannyasis the year before, they had developed a little bit of a deviant philosophy that Prabhupada is God. Mayavad. And so when Prabhupada heard about this, he had banned these 4 sannyasis from going to any ISKCON temple. They had to go out, each of them, and open 10 centers in order to do their penance for having said that Prabhupada was God. So Vishnujan Maharaj took a chance by even showing up at the Ratha Yatra festival. Actually took a chance, because he had been told not to stay away from ISKCON until he opened 10 temples. Houston was number 1, Austin was number 2. So that night there was a temple president's meeting. I heard the tape. It's not in the MP3 collection. I took many notes from that tape. And Prabhupada, in the course of this meeting, he said, so Vishnujan Maharaj, how many centers? And it was amazing how he answered it. It was like he was crawling out from under the carpet. He said, 2. And Prabhupada said, you have to open another 8. So anyway, now Prabhupada's going to go down to Los Angeles and for multi-initiations, a whole series of initiations. Because he would chant in the beads of each, and so you couldn't do it all in one session. So now we're in Los Angeles with Prabhupada. It's very wonderful. And there's a wonderful thing we've all heard about, the more famous morning walks. Venice Beach, Cheviot Hills Parks, etc. So it was a very nice thing they arranged in those days when Prabhupada would come back from the walk. We would all line up on the sidewalk. You know, Prabhupada's quarters in Los Angeles, it's like an alley beside the temple, and his entrance is in the back, on the side of the building in the back. So Prabhupada would get off the car, he'd walk up the sidewalk, he'd walk around the side of the building and go to the back to his quarters. So it was a really, really wonderful arrangement that they would give every devotee a flower. And Prabhupada had a basket of flowers. And then you got to have your own one-on-one moment with Prabhupada. Ki jai. It was wonderful. Prabhupada would get out of he would come down the line, and to each devotee you would give him a flower, and he would hand you a flower. You had your moment of your own personal loving exchange with Srila Prabhupada. So I was standing near the front by Vishnu John Swami. He got more than a flower. He got a hug. I wasn't envious because I was one of his men. I felt like I was getting hugged at the same time because I was one of his men. My leader got hugged. Oh, wow. Like that. I was feeling so good to see him getting a big hug from Prabhupada. So I got my flower, and I had my Prabhupada flower, just gave it to me, Now, one thing is, when you're actually there and you're seeing Prabhupada, it's not like seeing an ordinary person. This is as good as if you could actually, just imagine if Krishna appeared to you, and you could actually see Krishna, what an amazing experience that would be. It's just non-different. Krishna's pure devotees, darshan is non-different from actually seeing Krishna himself. If you can imagine the great potency of that. So, wanting to have a little more darshan, Prabhupada, I got my flower, and Prabhupada's coming down the road, but there's some steps, and I still remember exactly the spot I was standing. If you've come with me to the LA temple, I'll show you exactly where this little pastime happened. I still remember the spot. Every time I go to LA, I go back to that spot, and I remember that moment. So anyway, Prabhupada's coming down the road, and I got my flower, and seeing Prabhupada is, I call it, drinking Prabhupada into your heart through your eyes. That's how I describe it. That's the best way to verbalize it, but it actually means to take the darshan. You drink Prabhupada into your heart through your eyes. So there I am taking a good drink, you see. It's Prabhupada's coming down, coming around. Now he's finished the road, now he's kind of just walking back to go to the back. And he looks up to this character, from Texas, this wild brahmachari from Texas. He looks up to me. And because he sees I'm not in the line, you see. And he didn't say anything, but it was verbal, it was non-verbal body language and facial expression. He held up a flower like, did you get a flower yet? Wow, that was amazing. Prabhupada noticed me, and he wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on getting a flower. Wow. Oh, it was so powerful experience. And I just held up my flower, went like this, nodded my head with a big grin on my face, just held up my flower, nodded, yeah, I got my flower, Prabhupada. And that was my moment, you see. I got that moment with Prabhupada. And now, what's a brahmachari going to do with a flower that you got from Prabhupada's hand? If you're a householder, you can make a special glass case, put it on in your living room, and the bookcase, preserve it forever and ever. What's a brahmachari going to do? My sleeping bag goes in the closet every night, and I'm sleeping on the floor in the prasadam room. What are you going to do with that flower to preserve it? Well, I knew one way I could preserve it, at least for a little while. Eat it. Actually, I saw the monkeys eating a garland today at Radha Govinda, so I was like a monkey. I ate that flower. Merged it in my body, you see. So that was a wonderful thing. But there was in those days it was 6 months. You got to be chanting 16 rounds, following the principles for 6 months. So I'd been like about maybe 5 months. And the other boys who joined slightly before me, they all got initiated. But no, you cannot get initiated. And somebody said, Prabhupada's an old man, he can die at any time. And I was going, oh my God, I can't miss this opportunity. And I went to the brahmachari ashram, I was crying, but I couldn't get initiated. I was crying and crying and crying. I didn't want to miss this opportunity to get Prabhupada's initiation. So anyway, I didn't get it. I went back to Texas. But then, a few more weeks went by, and I hit the 6 months. And 2 other boys also, Chris and Ron. All 3 of us had hit the 6 months rule. And then, so Vishnu John Swami writes Prabhupada a letter recommending us. Now, I was not a very surrendered, cooperative type person. I was a bit of a renegade type, very puffed up renegade type person. So this letter came back from Prabhupada, dated August 12th, 1971 from London. He says, I've been informed by Vishnujan Swami that you 3 boys are doing service very nicely. I was going, wow, Vishnujan Swami is really kind. That's all I can say. Because I don't think I'm doing very nice service. I'm a rough character. I'm a very rough character for the devotees to handle. But he's very kind. He said he told Prabhupada I was doing very nice service, and he recommended me for initiation. So Prabhupada gave us the names. I got the names Sankarshan Das, and Chris got Palashcha, and Ran got Parashara. So by this time, Vishnujan Swami had gone down to San Antonio to open temple number 3, and the initiation we're going to hold it in the front yard. We moved everything out in the front yard, and the yagya was out in the front yard. Now, at that time, when Vishnujan Swami left, he wanted somebody else to come and take charge. He asked that Ishan Prabhu, Babavati, come and take charge of the Austin temple. Now, Babavati had just been with the devotees in London, where they were staying at John Lennon's estate. So he had this idea you could cultivate the big people. So Ishan Prabhu invited the mayor of Austin to come to the initiation ceremony. And he showed up. The mayor showed up. It was amazing. The mayor of Austin is sitting there at my initiation ceremony. And the student newspaper, the Daily Texan, had it that Vishnujan Swami is giving a simply wonderful to the mayor. And there's a picture of it in the newspaper. And so I sent that photograph to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was very pleased. He said, please give my blessings to Vishnujan Maharaj. Now how do you deal with that, I'm supposed to give Prabhupada's blessings to Vishnujan Swami. I felt I was getting Prabhupada's blessings through him. Now how can I give Prabhupada's blessings to him? But Prabhupada told me to do that, so I had to do it. I said, Prabhupada gives his blessings to you. So it was kind of nice. I got to reciprocate. He was giving me Prabhupada's blessings, and Prabhupada told me to give his blessings to Vishnujan Maharaj. So that was a very sweet thing. So now, normally you're the initiation, you collect your dakshina, you turn it in, but Prabhupada's not there. What do you do with your dakshina? Well, you mail it to Prabhupada. You see? Well, this is a great opportunity. You get to write Prabhupada a letter, wow, along with the checks. I don't know how he deposited them, but they wrote checks from Texas. I sent them to London, 3 checks. Prabhupada wrote me back. He actually gave the amount, like an accountant, he gave me the exact amount of each check in the letter back. And now I'd been very inspired by Vishnujan Swami. You got to make the world Krishna conscious. This revolutionary mood, we got to make the whole world Krishna conscious. This mood, you see, was very strong in him. This is the mood, actually, of a Krishna conscious person. Prabhupada explains in his purport that a Krishna conscious being is trying to deliver the entire suffering. He's always thinking and planning how to deliver the entire suffering humanity back to home, back to Godhead. That's the mood of someone who's actually Krishna conscious. So we can judge our own Krishna consciousness, our lack of Krishna consciousness, by how much we are thinking and planning how to deliver all living entities back to Godhead. So I was very inspired by him, so I told Prabhupada, I want to spread this movement. And Prabhupada wrote me back the most wonderful letter. Such a great treasure. He said, I can see you're a very sincere, enthusiastic boy who is eager for spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, he said. He gave me a blessing. He said, now just continue enthusiastically as you are doing, and surely Krishna will bless you. Now, do the words of the spiritual master, they're just kind of in the air, they don't have any potency, or they have great potency? Which is it? Great potency? Great potency, that's right. So Prabhupada told me that if I would continue enthusiastically, I would get Krishna's blessings. Well, I decided to cash in on that special benediction from Prabhupada and to always be fired up. You see? Always be enthusiastic, no matter what. I can tell you when Prabhupada left the movement, left the planet, not left the movement. Many devotees left the movement when Prabhupada left the planet because things got really weird in that transition period. Those who stayed are the really dedicated ones. So, but even in those rough times, I kept my enthusiasm for this movement in all situations, and it worked. Krishna kept blessing me, and he's still blessing me even right now with all of you here. Hearing it, I take all of you as a special blessing from Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, that you're all here, that give me a chance to share my feelings and realizations about Prabhupada. You are all the blessings of Krishna and Prabhupada upon me, that you're hearing today what I'm speaking. So in this way, actually, from this point on, my association was via correspondence, which is very wonderful. Because just something verbal, you can maybe not exactly remember verbatim exactly what was said, but when you have a letter, that's documented evidence. So one day I asked Vishnu John Swami a question. He said, didn't know the answer. He said, why don't you write Prabhupada? See, in those days, if you had a question you couldn't get answered, you would write Prabhupada himself. Wow, those were the glory days. You would write Prabhupada himself to get an answer straight from the ultimate authority. So I did that, and but then there was a new policy because it was getting too much for Prabhupada answering all these letters, and there's a new policy. You ask your temple president, you ask the sannyasi, you ask the GBC, and they will write Prabhupada, not you. I didn't like that policy. Because I had been addicted to being able to write Prabhupada directly. I was addicted. But I had a question that I needed to get answered. And I didn't trust anybody with Prabhupada, I'll be honest with you, to give me the absolute authoritative answers. So I took a chance and I wrote Prabhupada. But I didn't put my name on the return address to hope it would get through the security. And sure enough, it got through and Prabhupada answered the letter. He told me the policy. He reminded me of the policy. And he even gave me a little hint. He said, if you simply serve Krishna with full sincerity of attitude 24 hours a day, Krishna will personally come to you and answer all of your questions. Wow. Well, I'm not there yet, but I'm praying to Prabhupada right now that I can come there soon, to that level. I see Prabhupada's picture right here. I'm praying that Srila Prabhupada bless me that I can come to that level where Krishna will personally answer all of my questions. I'm not there yet, Prabhupada, but by your mercy I know it is possible. You told me it's possible. I'm begging your mercy that I can achieve that state as soon as possible. But then Prabhupada gave me a little mercy. He gave me the policy, but he said, but if any of my disciples have an urgent need, I'm always happy to hear from my beloved disciples. Guess what? I had a loophole for the policy. Prabhupada personally gave me a loophole. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I could write Prabhupada anytime. Didn't matter what the policy was. Didn't matter what the GBC said, what the temple president, what the sannyasis. Didn't matter what any of them said. I had a direct authorization from Prabhupada. Whenever I had an urgent need, I could directly write him and get an answer. So I did it for a while. I got a few more letters, and they're very special treasures. But I honestly reached a certain point where I didn't need to do that anymore. You see. I learned how to connect on a higher level. You see, by having faith in Prabhupada and having faith in his movement, having faith in the leaders, seeing how they were sincerely trying to serve Prabhupada. And I started writing my GBCs. So I got some nice letters from different GBCs about different things, and I took that as authoritative because that's what Prabhupada wanted us to do. So in this way, I got wonderful, wonderful mercy from Srila Prabhupada. And very, very kind to me. And of course let's see, I'll throw a few more anecdotes in now. Actually, I did get some more, you could say, more direct contact with Prabhupada. I was with Vishnu John Swami in what was called the Road Show. It was actually a traveling rock opera. It was a little controversial at that time in ISKCON, but all the roadshow members were really fired up about our rock opera. And it was really pretty ecstatic. It was a Krishna conscious, it was a story of some hippie named Ringer who became a devotee. And all these Krishna conscious songs like, you know you're not that body, we're all pure spirit souls. This body's just a bag of flesh destined to grow old. It was a cool thing, you know. And so anyway, there's going to be a big concert in Pittsburgh at the Syria Mosque Auditorium. We sold tickets, and Prabhupada's going to be there to hear the rock opera. And so we went to New Vrindavan. There was a big, what was called the Bhagavat Dharma Discourses, and this is the summer of '72. The whole week, Prabhupada's going to come to New Vrindavan and give discourses on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the end of it will be Vyas Puja and Janmashtami, the end of the week. There was no Mayapur festival in those days. In those days, New Vrindavan was the big festival for the whole movement, because it was basically just North America, maybe a couple of temples in Europe. That was it. And it was a big festival. It was really wonderful. They built a pavilion on top of the mountain, and we all went up to the top of the mountain every day, and Prabhupada came up, and he would give these lectures, and it was so wonderful. I remember one hippie from Gainesville, I was in Gainesville at that time, he said, no, I wasn't in Gainesville at that time, but he said, he asked Prabhupada this question. He said, if our purpose is to go back to Godhead, then why is Maya so strong? Prabhupada said, because your purpose is not strong. Prabhupada, you could never give Prabhupada a question he couldn't answer, and he would answer with great power, with great potency, and very poetically. You know, he was like a master at answering questions. It was absolutely amazing to hear how Prabhupada would handle challenging questions or puzzling type questions. He could just cut through all the crud and just give the most beautiful, poetic, and powerful answer just immediately. Just boom, like that. It's an amazing ability Prabhupada had. So anyway, we're supposed to end now at 6, right? 6 o'clock. 6:15? Okay. Actually, maybe I could answer some questions now. If anybody has any questions. If not, I can just keep the nectar flowing at different moments. So anyway, if someone has a question, you can raise your hand, but we had this rock opera, and it was a little controversial. Some devotees thought it was Maya, electric guitars and tie-dyed dhotis, all kinds of far-out stuff, and they used glitter, all kinds of makeup, fancy makeup. It was a really dazzling rock opera. Even the reviewers heard the band, they called it Rock'em Sock'em music. It was really a really together rock and roll band. Rock'em Sock'em music. So anyway, Prabhupada they put his Vyasa-san in the center aisle. And after every number we did, in those days the devotees don't applaud. Applause is something that karmis do. Devotees don't clap. We only clap in the kirtan. You don't clap like an applause. That's Maya. It's karmi thing. You don't applaud. So after every song, there was only one person in the audience that was applauding. That was Prabhupada. So anyway, I was playing a hippie. I had my wig, and I was pretending like I was getting stoned on marijuana. We were up there on the stage, faking getting high on marijuana, and Prabhupada's comment, he said, the hippies are up there doing their business. Actually, we had the Radha Damodar deities. That's a whole other story, interesting story. They had these deities of Radha Damodar. Actually, we have their miniature in our apartment now, but that's a whole other story. But they had these deities. They were Radha Krishna at the time, and they were driving around this bus, and so they wouldn't. The bus is rocking, so they tied the deity with rope so he wouldn't fall over. And Prabhupada heard about this. He said, you can name that naughty boy Damodar. So we felt very fortunate. We had a deity that was a special leela for the naming of the deity, the naughty boy. We have a naughty boy deity. It was named by Prabhupada as Damodar. It was quite a thing. We had 3 buses. We had the temple room bus. It was school buses. Actually, Mangalananda wrote a song about this. He said we had 3 school buses. They were tattered out and old. In a parallel world, they were chariots made of gold. It's actually quite true. It was something very mystical about those days. Something very, very mystical. We had the top pujari in the movement in those days was Shilavati, and she came to join with us. And so we had the temple bus, and we had an equipment bus, and then we had the kitchen bus, and the kitchen bus had a separate section in the back for the pujari room. And the Maharajis lived, that was their place, in the pujari room. That's where they lived, and we lived in the equipment bus. The men lived in the equipment bus. At night, we'd sleep. It was very special days, and Prabhupada, we could really feel the mercy of Prabhupada. So what else can I say? There's so many nice things. So many other nice instructions I got from Prabhupada. Let's see here. Anyone have any questions? Yes. Okay, here comes a question. It's a written down question. Okay. ISKCON isn't exactly kindergarten. What? No, Hinduism. ISKCON isn't exactly Hinduism at all. What you do think about devotee reverting to Hindu-Muslim differences in order to preach. This not encourage hatred instead of love. Yeah, actually, we're not Hindus, we're not Muslims. We accept those principles in all isms that are in accordance with Vaishnava Dharma. Prabhupada went to Tehran, and he very much appreciated the Hindu call to the Muslim. It's a call to prayer 5 times a day. He appreciated 5 times a day they're bowing down, so he appreciated them. So we appreciate anything from any ism, whether it's Hinduism, Sikhism, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, whatever it may be. Whatever is valid in accordance with Vaishnava principles from any of these traditions, we appreciate them. So we are not Hindus. We are Vaishnavas. Vaishnava is, Prabhupada thought Jesus was a Vaishnava, you see. Anyone who is absorbed in pure love of God, they are a Vaishnava. You see. Not limited to Hindus. Hindu, actually the word Hindu is a term coined by the Muslims to describe those persons living on the other side of the Sindhu River. So you won't find the word Hindu anywhere in the quote-unquote Hindu scriptures. They're not Hindu scriptures. This is Vedic. We're followers of the Vedas, not Hindu Dharma. Hindu is a Muslim word, actually. It's a Muslim word. So we don't identify as Hindus. Any other questions? Yeah.
I had 2, but anyway, I'll ask one first. You were talking about how Prabhupada wrote to you that if you were always enthusiastic, then Krishna would give you his blessing.
Yes.
So you said, so therefore you've always been tried to be fired up. So I just wondered if you could just give us some of your insights, how you manage to remain always fired up and enthusiastic.
How to always maintain enthusiasm? His question is, I can repeat it, how to always maintain enthusiasm in all circumstances. For me it was easy. I just remember Prabhupada's order, it's a piece of cake for me. Prabhupada gave me a benediction, and that benediction is not only for me, it applies to anybody. If you want to get the blessings of Krishna, be enthusiastic, that's all. No matter what. Be enthusiastic in kirtan, enthusiastic in japa, enthusiastic in service, enthusiastic in sadhusanga. Just be enthusiastic about all of it. And the more you're enthusiastic, the more you'll get the blessings of Krishna. That's true for everybody. It's not just me, it's everyone. So you just have to remember this principle. That's how you're going to get the nectar, how you're going to get the mercy. You have to just conquer the mind, you see, wants to get in the way and say no. Mind has to get in the way and say no. But you just have to ignore your mind. Say, oh, okay, mind, forget it. We're going to be enthusiastic today. Ki chai. You see? Tell the mind to, go jump in the Jamuna, That rascal mind. So anyway, I'm getting some notes here. I have to go to Damodarastakam. We have our Damodar deities waiting for Damodarastakam. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But those of you who would like to get, if you like what you heard and you'd like to get some more, you can go to I have a special thing, an e-course called the Ultimate Self-Realization Course. You just go to www.backtohome.com, backtohome.com, or if you can't remember that, join course, joincourse.com, and you can get on my daily newsletter called Thought for the Day. So if you like what you heard and you want to ask questions, yes. Yes, absolutely. Please bless us.
So, along with trying to maintain your enthusiasm under all circumstances, you must understand that Krishna will always test you to see how sincere you are about maintaining your enthusiasm. And when you pass that test, he'll give you another test, which will be harder. And as long as you're able to understand this is the hand of Krishna, then you'll be able to maintain your enthusiasm.
Actually, the hand of Krishna is acting at every minute. You simply have to develop the vision to see that. In the good, the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, it's the hand of Krishna at every minute. Actually, there's no such thing as bad. Actually, Kunti says the bad is better. Please give me bad experiences. Put me into distress. Put me into suffering, because that's when I'm more Krishna conscious. You have to understand this principle. The hand of Krishna is acting at every step. Not even for 1 minute is Krishna's hand not acting on you. So just try to connect with Krishna at every minute in all situations, seeing how His mercy is always manifesting upon you at every second, and you'll never lose your enthusiasm. So, we'll stop here, and we thank you all for coming tonight. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande.